Monday, October the 19th, 2015. We have some things to talk about today. Vote on intention to lay out the way, Kendyl Lane in place of an article on the warrant. The vote on the layout of shown in the street application, and discuss at 6:15. We were supposed to discuss with Algonquin a discussion with Algonquin representatives regarding access to the Freetown property, but that's not going to happen tonight. Algonquin's not going to be here because our legal counsel had an agreement for them to sign, and they chose not to sign it. We'd like a copy of it to take to their legal counsel, and that's where it sits. I think we'll probably set this up again for 2 weeks from tonight. The rest of the crew that just found out they're not going to be here went to Acushnet. So if that's what you were interested in.
Kendyl Lane.
Okay. Oh, here, I thought you were getting ready to hand me another one of these. All righty. Anybody want to approach the board for anything?
Yes.
I knew it. When I looked at the agenda, I'm like, I know.
Yeah, the historical commission is concerned with what the plans are for the bridge
South Main Street.
on North Main Street and where this historical bridge on National Register. And nobody on the historical commission has been notified about it.
We haven't, go ahead, do you want to talk?
I was just going to say, we just found out about this, that, you know, the bridge, about the different stages of repair costs for it, what they estimated, what it would cost to regrout the water line and things like that, but there were several stages they went through, accumulating at 1.7 million to do both the bridges.
Well, it's on, you know, it's an article on the town meeting, so you must have enough information for it to go on the town meeting. We are unaware of, I know that I'd seen on your agenda a couple times South Main Street issues, or, so I don't know if you receive reports, after inspections, if there was a problem. When there was a problem with Elm Street, we were notified. We really don't know what's going on, so we're here to ask before town meeting, so that we'd have information prior to town meeting when we go. It is on the National Register. The Richmond Road Bridge was not on the National Register, but this one is. And so, you know, it's more involved. So we need to, you know, if we're as residents going to vote yes or no for that much money.
It's for two bridges.
Pardon? For two bridges, yeah, with the Locust Street Bridge. That's not an old bridge.
That's not on the.
No, because it was built during my lifetime. This one was,
Let me, we all got an email of the several stages of the bridge repair. So let me forward that email to you and you can look it over. I'm not aware of, Chuck, I can't recall if he said it was a historical bridge or not. So now that you brought it to our attention, let me just forward the email to you. And then that way you can review it and see if there's anything on there. Also, if you want to get a bridge report, you can just check with Ally and she
I
has
called
copies
Ally
of
this
them.
afternoon.
Okay.
About 3:45, so she said she would get things together. So we could have a copy of the report, the inspection reports and what's deficient, because it's much different than the other bridges, but it is a historic bridge and it's integral part of the village and it's also an integral part of 79. It's not quite the same as Elm Street, which cut off two ends of the town. I mean, there are ways to get around, but we certainly, it's our job to ask, it's our job to find out, and Mass Historic is unaware of any of it. You know, I haven't been in touch with Mass Historic. When I saw it last week, when I saw a copy of the, you know, of the articles, I called to see if they were aware, because we were notified by Mass Historic on many, many issues. Even the railroad, you know, in changes, they notify us. Signs on 24 and Rattlesnake Brook and things like that. So that's why we were asking, you know, what the status is, because, you know, that's part of our job. So we'd like to know more on that.
No, I get it. I think that when I said stages, it just that means that either we fix the bridge one and done, or we do things in piecemeal. So those were the different options.
Mhm.
Stages is really not the appropriate word, but options. So
And
what's
what are the problems? We knew what the problems were on Elm Street, the rocks were falling out. And this one is cement, it's not a cement. So what is the problem? What are the recommendations?
I'll forward it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there,
It's all
Mary
in there.
and Paul. It's all
And,
in
and
there.
that would be, and I asked Paul because I thought it must have gone to the finance, but he didn't know either, so.
Of course they would.
Yeah, it was, we talked about it while we
Yeah,
were here.
but it came up, it's not in the detail.
No, because we only know what,
Well,
What
see,
the
the big
state
story,
had
one
said.
story I get is that all that has to be done is from the water line down.
that's the majority of the work.
And then, I was told that's all that would be needed. Whether
That's
that's
the-
accurate or not.
That's the
what-
majority of the work.
And
was from
anything
the water
above
line
that,
down.
if it's done the way they want to do it, it'll change the entire bridge.
I think,
The
I'm
entire
not gonna speak for Mac,
configuration of that bridge.
I'm not gonna speak for Macomber, but I think if you start working on the top of the bridge, every state law in the history of Massachusetts comes into play. Because now you're talking about, if you're gonna do anything to the top with the type of aggregation you put on the top of the bridge, it all comes under Mass state law. So at that point, I don't know how much control
But I'm
we even
saying, I was
have over
told
that
that
project.
you didn't have to do anything above the water line. And that,
Who told you that?
Chucky,
He's the guy that has the answers.
he said, no, there's two stories, right? One, you're putting in all the money to do all these stages. He's telling me, you don't need those stages, you just need to do below the water line. And if you do above the water line, you change the entire configuration of that bridge. And no one knows about that.
He never said that.
He never said that to me.
Absolutely not.
Well, he said it to me at the town
Below-
hall last week.
Below the water line is work that has to be.
Mhm.
Right, below the water
Okay.
line.
Above the water line, that work could wait, but not very long, maybe a year.
That's not what he said.
Well, that's what he said
Right.
to us, and if you want, go back and look at the
And the
video.
reason-
of
Oh, no,
meeting.
I'm
The
not-
reason why
I'm
we
not
put
arguing
it
with you,
on-
Paul.
I'm just telling
I'm
you.
just telling you what you said to me. That's my problem, is that I'm getting different stories at different times, so therefore it causes confusion.
When
And
you
nobody
get,
knows
when
what's
you
really
get the
happening.
report, you'll know exactly what we know.
And the concern is what kind of changes it's gonna do to the bridge. You know,
Whatever happens, whatever way the town votes, whatever, and how we did the Elm Street Bridge with that committee, will be the same way that that bridge gets done.
Okay, but the Elm Street Bridge was of course of a long period of
Right,
time.
I know.
Working, and first the town appropriated the money and we had our plans in place. And then it wasn't enough money, and so then it was taken over by DOT, Mass Transportation. And then the plans had to change. When we were doing it, the sidewalk wasn't gonna change, all sorts of things weren't gonna change. But both times we were involved, and that was even a long process, as you remember, Lisa,
Right.
to get the oversight committee,
Yep.
because it was a historic bridge and so forth. And we did have it, and we worked really, a long period of time, and, it was grouted underneath, all the things that were done. And we were in touch with Mass Historic right along. So are we going to pay for this whole project ourselves, or are we gonna get money from the state?
As far as we know, it's just paid for by the townspeople.
And that's why we're talking about doing a short-term ban, because the percentage rates are really, really low right now. So if we could get all the bridges done with the short-term borrowing and paid off 5 years within the 2.5% property, then, and there he is.
There he is.
Yeah,
Make it a
but,
demo.
have we talked to, Department of Transportation, are there no funds available to help with this?
Chuck, wanna come up here and help answer some of these questions since you brought this forward regarding the South Main Street Bridge? Okay. Mary and Paul have a lot of questions regarding the historic interruption, if anything.
If we do phase one, which I really think is the right way to go, it's not gonna have any impact at all because it's from the water line down. That's, I think, having the paperwork in front of me, I think that was like $800,000.
That's what I
That's,
remember.
that's basically to take care of the scouring problem. That's the issue. If we do the full boat, it's really opening a can of worms, because they wanna redo the alignment of the bridge. There's issues with the water main. And you'd have to bring the bridge up to current standards if you do that next step. If you do the full boat, you're really opening a can of worms. When they say change the alignment of the bridge, that's exactly what it is. You're either gonna have to take, if you're heading in a southerly direction, South Main Street is gonna have to go like where Buffington's was, half that front lawn is gonna be taken out. Or you're gonna do something with the gas pumps at Tommy Porges' store. It's really opening a can of worms if you do the full boat. If we do just the first phase, what is the problem is from the water line down. That could be as simple as just putting stone underneath the bridge and filling in the voids of it washing out. That's really what I would suggest that we do.
I must have been sleeping.
I know, I didn't hear any of
I
that
must have been
either.
sleeping at the
Sorry,
meeting that you
guys.
made the presentation to us, because there was never any discussion of realigning the
Nope.
roadway.
It's all,
What?
we didn't discuss it, it was in that paper, it was all in that packet.
I understand that, but in the discussion that we had, my recollection was that the first phase was an easy fix.
The first phase is what you want to do.
And that's what we need to do,
The second phase, I would.
is what the state wants us to
First phase is what the state wants us to do, from the water line
do. Down. The second phase, why would we get involved in the second phase?
The second phase would make the bridge 100% compliant with current crash standards, just everything.
And if it's not, what's the issue?
um,
It hasn't been compliant in 100 years.
Correct.
Or more. Almost 200 now.
The issue comes is the day, God forbid, if that ever happens, if somebody crashes and ends upside down in the river.
Yeah. We've had people crashing on that bridge before.
Lots of accidents.
I drive across that bridge every day in a big truck.
So
The potential
this-
is there.
Yeah.
This is a lot different.
But what the issue, what we need to do is, if we do anything, is phase one. That will take care of the state and any issues. Like I said, it could be as simple as adding rock, could be those
We
mats.
just dropped our bill by $700,000. I love you.
That's why I told you the last, when we first started, you don't wanna do the whole Magilla.
Yeah, but you didn't really, forgive me, but you didn't really explain that part of it, like alignment and widening, you
But
just,
it-
we just said,
I think it
we
was all
thought-
on that paperwork, but either way, doesn't matter.
But It does, because it's a lot of money and where it is, and so if our selectmen don't have the facts, and we certainly don't have the facts, before something is presented to the entire town to vote on that large sum of money, we need to know. And we need to know, can we get any state funds?
That I don't know.
I mean, I think we should explore if we can get some money, other funds.
Okay.
What do you think? I mean,
what state funds would be available, Mary?
transportation.
Through chapter 90, do you mean?
Pardon?
Or Chapter 90, or,
I don't
There's
know.
no chapter.
there's no chapter 90 money for that right now.
They're making the recommendation of what we should do, correct?
Yes.
You know, I'm not in the funding aspect.
Just like they made the recommendations of what we had to do at Brayley Road too, and they gave us no money.
Nothing.
And where else? We had to be compliant with them on Forge Road. They gave us no money.
No, we got FEMA, we
We
just
got
got
FEMA money
money.
only for the floods. Right, but there was nothing else from the state.
What about Richmond?
And we were involved with that one, because it was a historic bridge, and so that's why our concern when we read about South Main Street, which that one is on the National Register. Forge Road was not on the National Register, and we were involved, so we hadn't heard anything, we just see it, as an article, and so we tried to find out information.
And Richmond Road, Route 79.
So we're gonna have a
Not a
meeting.
state road according to the state, it's a marked road, no money.
We'll have a meeting before the special town meeting, so we'll discuss that.
So we
And then
can-
when we go to town floor, we'll have everything ready
We'll
for
have
it.
the right amount.
Right,
Okay, but we'd like to, so we'd like to be informed also.
okay.
Because you certainly, personally, how could we support it, this much money, without having facts? We'd have to, so that's,
I don't know what facts you need, it's in the report that
That's what we have to say.
water requirement has to be fixed, okay?
Yes, but that's a, we've gained from when we walked in though, with the understanding.
Yeah.
We all have,
That's my point.
right.
You know, the other thing, it's a historical bridge, and I think sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. We've got nothing to lose, we're starting out with nothing, so if we can explore getting some state funds, if we don't get it, we didn't have anything to start out with, but there's a chance, why not get the money?
Yeah.
But why would we even wanna touch that bridge if it means that we're gonna have to take somebody's property and realign the roadway?
No, we're
no,
not
no,
talking
no,
about
we're not for that,
I'm not talking about that.
Well, that's what we,
No,
No.
there's many issues, and again, that report that you originally got from GPI, it's all spelled out on that report. There's issues with the water line. What they wanted to do, part of the issue is they were gonna take the profile of the road and drop it. The GPI was unaware that the water line crosses the bridge, so you can't drop the profile of the road because you're gonna leave the water line exposed. You won't have enough cover. So now what do you do? Now we're talking, do you take the water line and dissect it and run it on the outside of the bridge? That's not really an option either. So the best way to handle that is phase one.
fix the bottom part and
Do
that.
the water line down and.
That's what I'm talking about, I'm not.
well, I'd like to
talking
still
about-
see what that's gonna look like too.
Well, it's not gonna change anything that you're gonna be able to see.
I'll-
It's basically gonna be from the water line down. High tide mark, down.
Oh, high tide mark down you still see, because you see it at low tide.
Correct. I mean,
Yeah,
it
so I'd
could-
like to see, we'd like to know, I mean, just what it's going to be. And I imagine it's described, so if we get a copy of the report and the recommendations, that would be good. And the inspection reports, that would be good. And so I'll stop, just, we can get that from Ally. So
There's
we're
no
aware of that.
pictures, there's no diagrams, but it's spelled out as far as,
Do you have any waders,
Pardon?
like trout fishing waders?
pretty
Low
deep.
tide?
Low tide.
Get your-
But it's a
Oh, you
pretty,
can take the canoe through.
it's a pretty deep hole underneath that bridge.
Never taking a canoe under.
I mean, it's a lot of money
On the Brayley
to
Road Bridge.
be wishy-washy about.
My, you know,
Gurney
my
Road?
concern, my
Gurney Road.
concern is, it's 1.75 to do both bridges now. They told us it was 500,000 to do Richmond Road. That ended up being 750,000. I think
Okay.
Chuck's coming back for more money.
Tonight,
My concern is, if we don't do what we can get done now for 1.7, and the state says, you're good to do the rest, just water line down. And then in a year and a half, they come back and say, if you were just gonna lower the weight limit to 20,000 pounds, so when they talked about Richmond Road, by lowering the weight limit, it was gonna cost us $80,000 a year for a new school bus route. So when you start mixing this whole thing in together, maybe it's smart to do the whole thing now and bite the bullet versus then put a gun to
If
our
we
head.
have all the facts, if we
Yeah.
have
Oh,
all
I
the
get- no, I
information,
understand. I
that's, and I don't think I'm not feeling that, well, I have seen all the information, and I'm certainly not a civil engineer to know, but
Yeah.
what I have seen, and I saw a lot more before the Elm Street Bridge. So that's all I'm asking for, access to see, not that I can decipher it all, but, we have members on the commission that can, and so that would be helpful.
Good.
It's a lot of money,
It
there's
is.
a lot of money on board for the town meeting, so
Oh, it
we
is.
need to know.
We
What we're
might
voting
wanna postpone the whole thing, just because on the Elm Street Bridge, we spent $120,000 in engineering before we did anything. We haven't spent dime one on any engineering. This is just projected what the project's gonna be, as far as knowing any details, any projections, what things are gonna look like, what color this is gonna be. You're $150,000 away from that. If you wanna hire GPI to start the engineering, then maybe that's how you should write the article.
Well, we can actually amend the article to add that in there.
And that's, I think that $150,000, or whatever the engineering fee is, in that price.
Right,
But to get to that stage, even if we were gonna go stage one, it was at $800,000. Maybe we need to get a price from GPI and say, okay, again, do one bridge at a time and say, okay, what's it gonna cost to engineer South Main Street Bridge? $150,000.
Why don't we
Okay,
do the easy bridge first,
okay.
Locust Street, get that done.
The easiest thing to do and the cheapest thing to do there would be the paint work, the maintenance issue. That's, I think, was it $200,000? I think was the figure. That would be GPI drawing up the specs, what we need. Basically, putting the project out to bid, getting a contractor in there, and possibly next spring to contain the area, sandblast, paint, do whatever they have to do as far as the metal work. That's the cheap maintenance fix. That's something that should have been done in 1975.
Okay, so we get that done, we get one bridge done.
You've got, that is a huge step on that particular bridge.
Does
We
that
can still
resolve
do-
that bridge?
That solves the end of that bridge. At some point, you're gonna have to readdress the decking
yeah,
on
see,
that bridge.
that's what I'm saying.
How soon though?
What is wrong with that bridge? The Locust Street Bridge?
Basically maintenance. The concrete has some issues.
right.
Cracking, the railings on the side are spalding, which basically is, the concrete is delaminated. That needs attention. I think the total on Locust Street was about 800,000 to do the deck and the thing.
We gotta do it right, we gotta do it the right way, we gotta think about this. Let's,
Yeah.
we'll talk about this
All right.
at a meeting when we're just talking
Yeah,
about
I'd
this.
rather do a bridge that we can do before we get the historical
Mhm.
people all up in arms, because you might change the color
The-
of a
the-
rock,
the-
you know what I
the-
mean?
Right.
That's what concerns me.
The Locust
So
Street.
let's get one bridge done, and let's take this, the long route,
Right.
and let them go,
The
get
Locust,
involved.
the Locust Street is more of a maintenance issue. Like I said, that's just been maintenance, it's been deferred for the last 60 years.
We can still allocate the money at
Yeah.
town meeting and not spend it until
Yeah, because all
we
we're
have
doing is
everything.
asking for permission to borrow.
Exactly, and
Right.
we're not gonna borrow until we have all our ducks in a row, so we're not gonna do anything until
Right.
we have all the answers. And then that'll free up the money for the engineering, so we can at least get the engineering started
Start
on
the
that.
process.
That's phase one of
It's just-
January.
And we're not gonna go to a debt exclusion. We're gonna get an authority to borrow money and do it using
Within the
state
2.5,
house notes.
right.
That way there, it's a low interest rate, and we pay it every year for 5 years.
Out of our
I think that'll
taxation already.
Out of
satisfy
our
everybody.
taxation,
It'll keep you
without
abreast.
increasing the people's taxes.
Right.
Just in case people watching this at home, they don't get the wrong impression that the stroke commission's worried about simply the color of rocks.
No,
No,
Yeah,
no, but
I mean,
no,
and
but
that's,
people-
and that,
Integrity of
that
the
really
bridge.
is, yeah, I kept quiet, but it was a lot more than the color of the rocks for the Three Arch Bridge. We saved the stone formation of that and saved
Beautiful bridge.
the neighborhood and so forth, and
But
it
you
was a
can't, we
lot.
can't do this in 2 months.
No, and that's why it seems to be premature, they have put this on, the warrant for the town meeting without planning,
It's
you
not-
know?
It's not really premature, because we have to get the engineering plans done anyway, right? The reason why it's on for the special town meeting and not the annual town meeting is because if we allocated the money in June, then we'd be another year behind. Now, we're trying to be proactive here. We're trying to get engineering plans done, we're trying to, we're trying to set aside money while the bond rates are good right now, so
Mhm.
we're trying to be proactive.
And I
We're
understand
not,
that,
we're
the
gonna lose
finances.
another year, so if we wait until June, we can't, we're gonna do the engineering plans and we're gonna be able to start like the following year, so we're trying to get this done because the bridges need to be done before they're closed by the state. So, all right,
Look, my comment was strictly, Mary, you know that these bridges that are historical, we get involved in colors and everything else, and that's what delays everything. So,
But
you know, I'm sorry that we even had this on the warrant, because,
I am too.
because you guys
not.
weren't notified that this is a historic bridge, but my understanding was we weren't gonna alter anything.
right.
But you don't know until it gets started.
And we
And the
don't.
fact that that's why it's put into protection, so that it isn't destroyed, and so that there are not adverse effects that would happen. And that's our job as commission members, and to stay on board and be watchdogs. And, you know, and that's what we are. And, you know, just like, every library or everybody else. And so we're saying, okay, I appreciate all of you and your your participation about this and your support. So I really appreciate that, and that you've listened, and we're gonna all work together on this, that's all.
Well, you're gonna get I wanna move ahead with the board meeting, because there's people here that were on
Sure.
our agenda for 6:15. But you're gonna get copies of the report, and we'll keep you abreast of what's moving on. You know why we wanna approve the money. My esteemed select colleague here explained that we wanna get the money now while the bond rates and everything are good, so we can move
That's
forward
good
with
to
the
know.
engineering. Those are the right steps. Those are the
Yep.
right steps.
Thank
So,
you.
you know, we know, and we'll all peruse that report with a little more depth probably and see where we are.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yeah.
You guys good?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Going back to 6:15.
6:05.
Yeah.
6:05.
7 o'clock's back.
It's tough to get old. It isn't gonna get any better, you know.
No.
It'll get worse. Kendyl Lane. Anyone here from Kendyl Lane? You guys wanna talk about what we're doing here tonight? What we're gonna do is vote on the intention to lay out the way in place as an article on the warrant, vote to approve the layout as shown on the street acceptance plan. It appears that everybody within a few miles of the place has been notified and returned receipts. I should probably, do I have to read the whole list, Ally?
Yeah.
I do. Okay. These people are all now notified, Conde, C-O-N-D-E, Antoni and Stephanie, Sally and Carlos and Sally,
Alexander.
okay, thank you. Sandra Cristino, Antonio and George, boy, these is a tough, Medeiros, Mr. and Mrs. Medeiros.
Badabunker, Eric and Vera Badabunker. That's only, I know
I
that.
can handle the next one, Nancy and Thomas
that right?
Murphy.
Close enough.
How do you pronounce that?
Vedbunker,
Vendebonker?
yes.
I got the next one, Nancy and Thomas Murphy.
There you go.
Colleen and Niles Nielsen,
Oh, yeah.
that's you. Karen Phillips, Brian and Judy Levitri, and Jeer Tennyson. Everybody's been notified? What are these two?
You have to read those two. Okay, read those two as well.
These two also?
Mhm.
Thomas and Sandra McLean, and Lance and Christian Casey.
I'll take those, thanks. Okay.
Anyway, we're here to vote on that. I guess it's certainly been through the planning board, and we've got their blessing for everything. Got a letter from the planning board about this.
Make a motion to approve the layout as described and to place
What's
as a warrant
described?
article. It's right here.
See,
It's
we-
already gone through the planning board,
We were
so
promised trees and we were promised an entrance. Is that gonna happen?
that's something you need to take up with the planning board, not the board of selectmen.
Were you at
We're
their
just
meetings?
approving the road layout, the planning board takes care of all of that.
invited to the meeting.
It would have been an open meeting,
Yeah,
public meeting.
Public meeting.
Nobody mentioned it. I don't think anybody here knew about that. That belongs on Kendyl Lane.
that's,
We were
again,
promised by Mr. Harris that we're gonna have an entrance, grand entrance like that, and we're gonna have trees
Every 20 feet.
every feet, and so many feet and all that stuff. It never happened.
all right,
He promised you that.
Yes.
It's part of the paperwork.
again,
I never promised anything like that.
Then you're one liar.
okay,
not gonna get
we're
into
not
that.
gonna, we're.
No, I'm
we're
just
supposed-
telling you how it is.
No,
All right.
we're not gonna, this is a
Yep.
board of selectmen's meeting and we all have to be respectful of one another, okay? This, the board of selectmen, as road commissioners, approve the layout of the road. Anything else that has to do with with the trees and all of that, and all your areas of concern should be addressed with the planning board.
Planning board,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. All we're doing is saying we're good with the road.
That's,
The road's a road, you know?
that's, right, and it's,
But it's
it's,
more than that, though. It has to meet all the DOT and everything standards, everything that's required from the town. But our planning board says we're good with it, and that's simply what we're voting on.
so we're good with the layout of the road. If you have issues or concerns, there is a, something that needs to be addressed that is gonna hold us up a little bit, so,
I
right,
took care of
Ally?
that today.
Okay,
I met with DOT this afternoon. The bounds have been reinstalled. What I didn't have for them today, because I hadn't been notified until today, in fact, I had to drive over there to get a letter from them. They need a plan signed by a certified engineer. The engineer that did the design is gonna do that tomorrow and the next day, and I'm gonna get it to the DOT probably by the end of the week. So the
Yeah.
planning board is good with that.
okay. Now remember, this is just another step, right? This has to go to, this would be on the warrant for the special town meeting. So certainly if you have issues or concerns, I would hope that that would be all dealt with beforehand. But if you do,
And how do we go about doing that?
I would, A, get in touch with the chair of the planning board, okay? I would maybe write a letter with all of your names on it and request to have it be placed on the agenda to talk about your concerns.
Okay.
The special town meeting, though, is next 2 weeks from now?
27th, no.
The 27th, yeah.
It's next week, isn't it?
So I mean, it can be tabled and on town meeting floor if you feel that that's necessary.
I got it.
I don't know what the concerns are, other than hearing that you needed trees.
We got paperwork that said it went from 20 feet, you can put every tree, down to 40 feet, and now nothing's happened.
It was waived by the planning board.
Who the hell's the planning board?
That's your planning board.
Yeah, but
Who is the person that, within the planning board,
The
that was
planning
sanctioned
board
this?
is a board of five members.
Yeah, but I mean, our names were never mentioned, we were never brought in, asked, certified, or anything like that. How do we get
This is
kicked to the
my
curb?
address.
It's yours. Does your deed have that on there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your deed states that.
Yes.
all of us.
Yes. My only question about this is, we were informed with a certified letter to be here today, to be
Be
present. Well, yes.
Yeah, because.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
the
okay,
reason.
Yes.
all right. You were never.
That's why you got
were
that.
never informed.
I
of a
never
planning
got
board meeting?
such a thing for the
Planning board.
the planning board that Mr. Harris is talking about. I always wonder, how can you vote on something without having the people that live on this development approving or not approving of whatever was decided at this meeting? That's my only concern. Whatever decision was made wasn't in favor of the people that live on this development. So it sounds to me that whatever was done and decided was in favor of the developer and not anybody else. So that's my concern.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation to you?
Just another question. When you bought your property,
Yes,
you bought it from him?
yes.
And in your deed, it states what you're saying to
It
us?
does not state that in the deed.
If you look at the development paperwork, it does state the amount of trees, what needs to be done according to layout when it comes to that. If anything was approved, it certainly wasn't by everyone that lives in this development.
A planning board meeting is an open public meeting.
Correct.
Everybody can go to that meeting.
I understand,
It was
but
advertised as well.
And it's advertised, and you could go there and say to the planning board, that isn't what we understood was gonna happen when we bought this land.
That's why they have their meeting.
That's why they had these.
Okay.
How do
and
we know this
it-
meeting was regarding Kendyl Lane?
It was advertised.
What if I'm on vacation, I'm out of town? I mean, do I get screwed
We all
just
have to
because I'm
have,
not
we all
there?
have to take our own responsibilities here. Well, I understand what
But
you're
if
saying.
it's in your paperwork that you're gonna get this, why do I have to even be there? It's supposed to be there.
Because then maybe the planning board wasn't aware of it's in your paperwork. I have no idea. I wasn't at the planning board meeting. Again, I'll just go back to what I was saying originally. and I'm listening to you, the only thing that we're here to approve is the layout of the road. All the other concerns really need to be dealt with the planning board. That being said, if my two compadres were to go along with this, I'll say let's hold off on voting on this until our meeting before the special town meeting. And then it'll give you some time to get that addressed. We will be talking about this at 6 o'clock at our next,
On the 27th.
on the 27th. So, but it probably will be up for an article on, the town meeting, unless it's tabled at that time.
I think
And
the-
without the approval, it
Excuse me
won't be
one second.
tabled.
I think the vote needs to be 7 days before town meeting though. I have to give Jackie your vote 7 days before town
My motion to table it.
meeting. For-
Yeah, no, we're not gonna vote on this tonight, Ally. There's way too much going on
Going on here.
that we're not. I hear you. I don't know if it's, you know what I mean? Like, you're putting us in a position that we can't tell you yes or no, so you really need to take
We
your.
were put in that position.
You have to go back to the planning board, but
And I will-
myself, I'm not gonna sign this
And
tonight.
I will have Ally reach out to the planning board tomorrow, and I would call
On your behalf,
Lauren
yeah.
Moreau tomorrow. She is in charge of not in charge, but
She's a
she's
technical
yeah.
technician.
the planning technician up there, and I would sit down and speak with her.
So you're not, just to be clear, you're not gonna be voting on the approval of the
No.
road?
I make a
not.
motion that we bypass this
We don't even
tonight.
have to do
We
that.
don't do it, we just.
We're just gonna, we're not gonna
So
take
this
any
won't get on
action.
the warrant, the 27th?
Unless,
You can't make the 7-day
You can't make the.
criteria.
I don't know.
So if it doesn't go on the warrant, then it won't be approved until next year, is that correct?
We approve to
Until-
the next meeting.
Which is when?
Probably June.
So this whole winter, they'll have
You guys really
to
wanna
deal
rely
with
on
what
it?
they've been.
Yeah, you guys have to understand that if
This
this is not an approved
Cows,
roadway, hold on, if this is not an approved roadway, you'll get no plowing,
That's right.
you'll get no,
That's-
okay,
That's
That's
one
what I was
thing.
just mentioning.
Right.
So. And
Um,
if it's like last year, we're gonna be screwed.
well,
You know, it.
Can't have it both ways.
Yes.
Can I just say this? As citizens of the town, it's not the town's responsibility to make sure you go to meetings you have to go to. It's not their responsibility to send you a
How do you
letter.
know what town meetings we're supposed to go to? We
They're
have it in,
average.
wait a minute, sir, we have it in paperwork that this is supposed to be what we're supposed to get. Now, all of a sudden, if you wanna go to litigation, we'll do that. But in the meantime, why are we getting burnt?
Well, here's what I'm thinking, that had you gone to the planning board meeting and voiced your
Sometimes we're out of
Concerns
town.
Yeah, but
Maybe we
there's
met.
no opinion to
you're
have.
not all out of town on the same street at the same time. Some of you might be.
No, but when you're grandfathered in to have something,
Yeah, I know.
you don't think about going to a meeting to fight something that you already have.
When
or
did you
should
find
have.
out, when did you find out that what you expected wasn't gonna happen?
Months ago, months and months ago.
No.
So why'd you back out of it?
I didn't back out of it.
Like hell you didn't. You're a liar.
Right.
Hey,
no. we
I don't
can't
need
do
this.
that.
Well,
No.
I mean,
let's
let's
knock
face
it
it.
off.
Let's just
All right,
take
I'm
it
sorry,
easy.
but
Can I just say one thing, sir? All right?
Ask the chairman.
Can I say one thing?
Identify yourself.
I'm Nick Harris, the developer of the project, okay? I've been there 7 years on this project, trying to complete it through the worst times real estate's ever seen. I never walked away from the project. I continue to finish it at my own cost and at great expense. The tree issue was decided on a site walk with the town, and it was put on the planning board, sent out notification, not notifications, but they put out the advertising that they had to do for the town meeting, for the planning board meeting. I showed up, no one else showed up, okay? They waived the trees, except for 2 trees by the retention pond they wanted to put in, which we put in. With respect to, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the overall, the original plan of the subdivision showed trees every 40 feet, not 20 feet, every 40 feet. The plan showed that, and that's what was waived, as was curbing was waived. And there are certain things that you ask for in a planning board hearing that you ask for waivers on. The trees were waived by the planning board. The reason they waived it was because 90% or 60% of the people in the subdivision didn't even want them. Anybody who had a sprinkler system in their yard was gonna have to redo their entire sprinkler system because we were gonna be digging it up. So they gave us notifications they didn't want it. Everybody was notified as to whether they wanted or didn't want it. Some of them didn't respond at all. The Nielsen's did not respond. Colleen Nielsen has been contacting me for the last year, all right, about these trees. She has also contacted the planning board as recently as 5 days ago, all right? And the planning board told her, as they told me, that the trees were waived, all right? And she knows that.
And they also told me.
Let me
I
finish, and then you can
contact
talk.
you.
All right, and you did. So,
And with that fault.
all right, let me finish, and then you can talk, all right? So the trees were waived by the planning board at a planning board meeting. There was never any entrance to the subdivision. The suggestion was made that if I wasn't gonna put the trees in, that I should spend the money for the trees on a fancy entrance. That was again done by the Nielsens. I wasn't gonna do that either. I mean, why would I spend, I'm not gonna spend money that's not required. I did finish the subdivision. The town has, I've done all the engineering that was required. We've done numerous site walks for verification that everything was done. Chuck was there. Everything was approved. You've got the plan in front of you for the hearing on the 27th. These issues that they're bringing up now should have been brought up a year ago and brought to the town, and they didn't do that. Now they want you to champion their cause at my expense. This road is not gonna get approved this year, which means that they're gonna suffer through the same problems they ran into last year with plowing and everything else that they have to do. I can't be there every time they call the planning board and tell me to come cut grass and tell me to come plow, because I've got other obligations. I get there when I can, and that's just the way it is. This was all spearheaded and pushed through so these people would have the town's blessing and have the ability of the town to plow their road for them and keep them safe. And that's why we're here tonight, is for the board. The board should vote this because their issues are not your issues.
How many houses are in that? So
14.
14, and we've got, how many people here own a house?
4.
1, 2, 3, and you, right? 4, so there's 4 people.
Out of 14. And everybody was notified.
Just before we move on, because we're gonna move on, we've already decided. You've raised your hand several times. I
No,
want to give you a minute to
I just
speak.
I wanted to make a comment.
Would you identify yourself?
Yes, my name is Vera Vedwonker. I live on 3 Kendyl Lane, and I'm new to the town. And one of the things, it's so funny. I actually mentioned this several times. I'm like, how do we find out when's the next town meeting? How do we find out? I talk to my husband about it all the time. I looked it up. I've gone to a couple because people told me to go to. I don't know where the advertisement took place. How am I supposed to Google or maybe it's it's my fault that I should research that more often. But does it happen at every certain time of the month, or you guys just choose and pick?
No,
How
you're
are we
talking
supposed
about,
to know?
you're talking about 2 different things.
Right, I am.
Okay, a town meeting is, we have an annual town meeting, annual once a year. We have a
Okay.
special town meeting if needed in the fall.
Okay.
Okay, so you're talking about public hearings that are taking place with the planning board. Their meetings are every other week or every week?
Twice a
I don't
month.
even know.
Oh,
So,
and maybe it's my fault. I didn't know that. And if I knew that this was even coming out and this issue was coming out about the street, I would have definitely came to the meeting. I also talked to a couple of other people in the development that couldn't make it. It's like, very good, I'm gonna try. It's a difficult time. People have kids. It's a family bit. My child left through my husband. I rushed. It's tough. It's 6 o'clock. It's a tough time. If they knew, I thought there were, this was with the street, but I thought that, Nick, I'm sorry, but you did, when we bought the land, when I bought my husband into land, we're gonna put the trees up. I was excited, oh baby, we're gonna have trees in the house, that's part of the reason to why we purchased the house.
For
and
the
spent
trees.
our money, and we paid a lot of taxes in the town. It's not for the trees, but to make our development look good. They were so excited, we have great neighbors. It's part of it. We talked about it. Do I have it in writing? I can't tell you, I don't remember, and my husband would know all about it. I wish he was here. He reads all that stuff. But I know we talked about it, and you did say that you want to put the trees.
At that time, I
At that
probably
time.
did say
So
that.
when I paid you, that was when we made the deal, that was part of the deal. I didn't realize that such thing could even happen and waive the trees. Like, you know, that was
Well,
just my comment. And that
Can I
was-
make a comment?
Yes, that's gonna be the last one.
I'm Carlos Alexander, I live on 12 Kendyl Lane. I'd like to readdress the fact that, to be able to vote on this, because I hope you guys understand that if they don't vote on this today, we're gonna have the same issues we had last year. He's not gonna clear the town. He's not, he's right. He's not gonna be there, he's not gonna plow the road the way it's supposed to. It's supposed to be even worse winter this year than it was last year. We're gonna have to rely on him. And I have little ones, as you know, and this is just to vote on the layout of the
Right.
road, and that's it.
Right.
Every other issue we can still bring up on the planning board, have them address it, with the
Here's what-
trees, with the
here's what
entrance.
we can do, we can vote on this tonight, and then we can table it at the town meeting if we so choose.
I just,
But that way, you'll be
We
covered.
do.
I only have one question. We have a registered letter to come down here today for this, but how come we didn't have a registered letter to say that you're changing the rules of the game?
We didn't change the rules. of the
No,
game.
well, I'm saying within the town.
That's between you and the developer, not between.
No, well, I mean,
I'm misunderstanding you here.
That's fine.
well, I mean, how did somebody waiver what he's supposed to do for us, and all of a sudden within the town, it says it doesn't matter, it's null and void?
You mean the planning board saying you?
Right, how does that
I
come
don't have
about?
an answer
Who
for
has that authority to just say it's not gonna happen, what was within our agreement?
I don't have an answer for that. That was between them and the Paul, Mr. Sadek?
I mean, I'm trying to
No, I
learn.
hear you.
I wanna step back for a couple of seconds to address her concerns. One, every meeting is posted at the town clerk's office. It's posted on our website. Okay, that's by law, you have to, right? Every meeting, every public meeting. So, whether you got a notice or you didn't, you can always find out when a board of selectmen's meeting, when the planning board's meeting, when the water commission's meeting, no matter what it is, and you have the right to go.
In the subject matter.
And it tells you the subject matter, okay? You can look at our postings on tonight's meeting, everything we're talking about, unless someone comes in and wants to address the board, is part of that meeting, okay? That's number one. Number two, to answer your question about the planning board, the planning board enforces the rules and regulations of the town of Freetown. The fact that he told you he's gonna put trees, if he told you, every 20 feet when he was selling the property, that doesn't mean those are requirements of the town of Freetown.
But it was waived by the town.
If it's not required by the town, they can say you don't need them. And that's why we have individual
But
boards
wasn't it within the
elected,
subdivision,
elected-
within the
yes.
self, is what I'm asking.
elected by the people. These people are elected, some of them are appointed by the boards and by the people to make these decisions for you. That's why it's important to stay on top of what's going on.
But what, sir, can I ask you something? If you have a development going in there, and there's supposed to be this happening, that happening, and then all of a sudden there's waivers, aren't people within that community supposed to be notified one way or another?
That's governed by the planning board, what they're requiring.
How
of the
can they
people.
have the ability to change something that's already been accepted?
Okay.
Right, well, the town didn't accept it, but I do wanna address your concern. You're absolutely right. You're only 4 people here out of 14.
Wait a minute, first of
You're
all,
not gonna have.
three of them, they're developing pieces of property. Okay?
Who is developing?
Wait a minute, there's one on, there's 2 lots, one of them's just being built, Mr. Harris is building it now, there's another one down the end of the street that's being built, there's another one over there that's just in the process of being built, nobody lives in it.
Wait, but I asked, how many houses are there right now?
So I'm
that are
saying there's
sold?
11 usable houses.
Okay, you said 14 before, somebody said
He
14.
did.
Okay, so there's 11 people that own houses right now. So do you not wanna have plowed roads this year?
I would like to.
Then if that's the case, if
that's all
that's more
there-
important to you,
today, that's all
then you
they,
want us to sign
because
this.
if we don't
want us
vote
to
on that
approve this.
today, then
You're not gonna have
It will
it.
be
But
placed
how much ability do we have to straighten this out about the trees and
the
the?
same.
That's your business.
Whether we vote on this or not,
I mean, he's gonna
We're
walk
not
away from this
changing-
whole entire thing.
we're not gonna, but that is between you, the planning board, and the developer, not us. So we do have a motion on the floor.
I'll rescind my motion.
Okay.
I would just, this
want-
this
No, I
will
didn't- we didn't
make no
second your
change
motion
to
anyway.
this.
So we do
Yes,
have a
yes.
motion on the
That's gonna
floor.
fall on deaf ears.
We do have a motion on the floor to accept the layout as planned and to place a warrant article on town meeting floor.
That's my motion.
That's your motion?
Mhm.
I'll second her motion.
So you understand that we're gonna vote on this, and then if we table it if it doesn't work out. So I have a motion made and seconded on the floor to accept Kendyl Lane as the layout as presented was by the planning board, and be placed on the article of the warrant. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye. It's done.
okay.
Still has to be approved at the town meeting.
Has to be approved at the town meeting. The voters have to accept your road, but for now, at least it'll get,
It's on the agenda.
if we get
Sure.
snow between now and next
Because
Thursday.
If we didn't vote today.
Yeah, you wouldn't have gotten
We'd be
plowed,
waiting again
mail,
another year.
like all that.
We do get mail, but
Right,
the
but-
plow is important, because
My suggestion to you
Yeah, it
is
is.
to reach out to the planning board, the chairman of the planning board. You get that information by calling the town clerk. You can go online and explain to them what happened, and let the chairman of the planning board explain to you.
And
why.
request the minutes of the meeting.
That hearing was over a year ago.
Request the minutes of the
A
meeting.
year ago.
Minutes are still available.
I understand, but it was a year ago when they waived that.
Wrong is wrong, and that's the end of the story.
Okay,
Why are you here tonight?
okay.
Listen.
Thank you very much.
I would like to recommend that you people come to the special town meeting on the 27th. It's at the elementary school, 7 o'clock, because this issue is gonna come up for a vote. If the townspeople don't vote to accept that road,
And at the same time, the planning board will be there.
no, the planning
Not
board does not have to be
necessarily.
there, no, absolutely not.
This will just be a vote for them
That's
to
a
be able
different
to
beast.
accept it as a public road.
That's right.
Right.
People
So
have
we
to
can
accept
get it
it.
plowed, that's all.
That's right.
And that's what we want, I think all of us want, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
I
you.
think.
I think.
So,
Yes,
don't
sir.
forget, 7
Please
o'clock
don't lie.
next
Why
Monday
not?
night, the
That
27th.
man is a born asshole.
Okay,
Oh, you're on camera there.
And I'm being gentle.
Wow.
So we are gonna do the planning board thing?
So, what are you telling me? This was gonna be an easy
I mean,
meeting?
yeah,
I mean,
I did not anticipate this.
I mean,
I
I know how
just-
this- I know I don't have paperwork from anything from,
I know,
I didn't use him as a builder, so.
Oh, all right.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't use them
But
as a
neither-
builder.
I
either.
never should have.
Guys, you're being,
Yeah, I-
you're on TV.
I have nothing in your deeds.
You're on tape,
Guys,
just
you're on
remember.
TV, and this is all being recorded, it's
Oh,
gonna be
don't matter.
on TV, so.
You have beautiful kids,
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
I didn't know my kids.
because you're in the after-school program,
Oh,
at least
yes,
for Chico,
very well,
all three of them.
yes. And I'm glad we approved them more because of the kids,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's too
Mr. Harry,
dangerous.
he really,
Well,
It's
Well,
too
last
dangerous
year,
for
he
the
plowed
snow.
maybe 3 times during the whole winter.
Yeah, and it was miserable.
How many times this has happened between people who bought houses and developers? What
This
they
is, I
promised
have to
and what
say,
happened?
in all of my years, I have never had this, ever. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Planning
Thank you.
board and move forward from there.
thank you.
that's it.
See you on the 27th.
Will do.
Chuck, you're
And
on.
I'll make sure everybody knows.
Are you
Sorry.
registered voters?
Like,
Yes, I am.
Okay, you gotta be a
Yes.
registered voter to vote.
Yes, I am.
let's go.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
On our consent agenda, Mr. Macomber, discuss/approve the overage amount for Richmond Road Bridge.
This comes about, we discussed the overage for GPI, I think probably the last meeting I was here. They're gonna be approximately 14,000, this paperwork says $14,305 over. Has to be. Chapter 90's picking up the tab. Kim just needs you to take a vote and approve it, or she won't pay any more bills. So today we got this from GPI. It's basically just an amendment on their original contract stating that they're gonna spend another $14,305. You need to vote on it, sign it.
I think it needs to be, does it need to go through to Mark Rich?
It is an amendment to the contract, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's an amendment to a contract.
Well, we don't want the project to
Can we
slow
go
down.
through a
I don't-
reserve transfer too for that?
The amendment is
Chapter
only
90
with
program.
regard to the price, the dollars. That's the
This is
only
for the
amendment.
Richmond
I don't
Road.
think you need town council to bless that.
The original agreement for GPI was $138,220. That was approved by Chapter 90. We're closing in on exhausting that, and we still got a little more to go on the project. So for their construction services and inspections, they're gonna need another $14,305 to get us through the end of the project.
What if we make a motion to approve it?
Yeah.
Contingent on the fact
Yes.
of our legal counsel saying,
That's-
yes, we can do it.
that's fine.
All right?
I'll second that.
Good. All right.
I have a motion made and seconded as stated by Selectman Sadek to refer this to our legal counsel.
No, we'll vote to approve it unless legal counsel says
Legal
otherwise.
counsel says no. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's where we are.
Okay. Also, Etna Bridge, we're probably on the the actual construction part of the bridge, we're probably gonna be anywhere between 10 and 15,000 over.
TJ, do you have your badge?
No.
Boy.
Again, wow.
It may not be quite that, because we approved 750,000. The bridge came in at 744, so we've got $6,000 there to play with. So we're still gonna be looking at anywhere between, $9,000, $12,000 that we're gonna be over on the price of the actual construction. Time-wise, because they lost a week, and the week we had the horrible weather with the hurricane, so that set us, they're not looking at October 31st, they're probably looking at the first week, the end of the first week of November. In talking to Brian Blackerby today, the project manager, we're hoping to get that into a binder so it's passable by the school bus. We won't open it up to all traffic, but we'll allow the buses to cross the bridge. That will save us that $500 a day.
By when?
By the end of the first week of November. That's best case scenario, as long as they don't hit any other problems. The extra 10 to 15,000, the bulk of that is on the southerly side of the bridge. The stone wall, the retaining wall that's been there for the last 190 some odd years started to decay. So they actually had to excavate some of that out, and we're pouring the concrete on that tomorrow. That's the bulk of that overage. You know, that was unforeseen. And then on the northern side of the bridge, they hit a rock that was the size of a normal car. That took quite a bit of time to excavate that, and, well, they had to break the rock up. So that was an unforeseen cost. So, like I said, we may have to go for transfer, say, $10,000 to $15,000.
Reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the only way we can do
definitely.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
But-
there's plenty of money in there, so.
It's just,
Playing games.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're there. Like I said,
Wiggling.
between Jim Noyes, Kim Armstrong, Brian Blackberry, and myself, we've gone over the plans and looked at how to save money. We were gonna do a shortcut on the paving project instead of stretching it out, say 300 feet. We were gonna cut it down to 200 feet, but the transition wouldn't be what it should be. So that's not really an option, and the savings wasn't
Just do it right.
Yeah.
correct. That's what I told them. I said, we're never gonna do this again. So,
Not when you and I are living.
that's right. So if it costs, if the total project is $10,000 over on a $750,000 project,
It's not so bad.
that's really minuscule.
You might still be around, you know,
God
100
willing.
years from now.
God, 100 years from now,
But
no.
that's,
I'm just looking for like, you know,
that's pretty much it on the two bridges. Now, the other stuff, we're dealing with snow now. You know. We're losing contractors faster than I can hire them, so that's a little bit of a concern to me right now.
how come?
Pay, they're going,
Even though we went up,
they're going to other towns, and some people, after going through the nightmare that they went through last year, they don't wanna,
they just don't wanna do
they
it
just don't
anymore.
wanna play the game anymore.
You know anybody that can handle Dr. Brayley Road?
You. He's got this great big tractor he bought. You know, with the snow blow around and everything, so.
So do you wanna address that again, or are you gonna leave it alone?
No, I think we're gonna, I mean, the pay scales, I mean, I've got Dayton, Berkeley, Lakeville, all the area towns, and I mean, it's hard to compete. The town of Middleborough is paying the same rates as Mass DOT. There's a few towns that have gone to
I
that.
didn't pay that when I was there.
Correct. They probably didn't do as good a job either. But, you know, Mass DOT's paying $200 an hour. I'm paying, my top pay is 63, 65, 65. Hard to compete.
It's not gonna snow this year.
How many contractors you down?
It's still kinda early, but I've only got 5 contractors that have signed up
I would say
out
that
of 35.
if you find yourself in that position, then we may have to readdress that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that this week and next week, we get a steady roll of contractors signing up. If not, we're gonna advertise in the paper, we're gonna advertise on the website, we're gonna advertise on the signboards, just because, you need bodies. I need at least 35 subcontractors. I mean, I've lost pretty much, Teddy Walsh, I've pretty much lost use of him over at the school. That was another thing I was gonna address. I asked Alex, is there anything formally written about our policy as far as plowing the elementary school? Is there any way we could get help from the region?
Yeah, we can ask them.
What do you
Or we
mean?
can tell them.
Somebody to plow it?
Yes.
Who plows the
I've got a
regional school?
They do,
Huh?
I don't
they
know.
do.
They plow their own, but would they also plow in Lakeville?
That's
Assawamsett?
one.
The town of Lakeville, I think, does.
I thought the town did it.
Yeah.
See, my problem is Teddy has always run the backhoe over at the school. I purposely bought a 12-foot snow pusher, but he can no longer run the backhoe.
Mhm.
He no longer has his license.
Right.
How's our other guy that hurt his hand?
And
How long is he gonna be out?
do not know. I heard a rumor that he might be back to 26, but I cannot get a definite answer from his doctor. The note that I got from him was basically he was out indefinitely. And I called the doctor and said, you gotta kinda narrow it down to him, because indefinitely means
Forever.
forever. I mean, he's not being paid by the town because he's used up all his time. So
Yeah, but he didn't get hurt on town time, right?
No, but he used up what time he had left, he used up. So he hasn't been paid for, I think, the last 3 weeks. So I would think that would be an incentive to come back to work as quick as he can, but he's just waiting for clearance. So that's also an issue.
If we're gonna make the decision not to plow the elementary school, we gotta give them a heads up sooner rather than later.
Well, what, we may have to revert back to the way we used to do it. We plow, and then the last thing we do is the school. And a lot will depend on the subcontractors coming that we hire.
I think that that's the way you should do it anyway.
The guy that can no longer do it, what's he gonna be doing?
I gotta stick him in a pickup truck, plowing.
Because he can operate the pickup,
Yeah. So he legally can't even drive one of the one-tons.
I know.
So he's gonna be, I'm gonna take Mark out of the pickup truck, put Teddy in the pickup. Mark, I'm gonna try to convince him to go get his medical card, so then he can legally drive the one-ton. And then he can-
Mark,
Oh,
custodian?
yes. And I-
And I hate to ask you this, but what are we doing on the licensing for everybody before the first of the year so they can operate the equipment?
3 of them went to school last Saturday, and they've all, as far as I know, submitted their applications for an exam.
Good.
Cool.
So, at
So
least
you'll do a change of status when you're ready?
there won't be any change of status.
Okay.
Nobody's changing anything.
Okay.
The,
They just get it, but they should've had it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
and I
something
told
going
them that, I said, I think, not speaking for the board, but I said, as long as you're making an effort, if you don't pass the test, if you're making that effort, you're making the effort. They're not gonna come down on you. But if you're gonna be so cavalier to say, I'm not doing it, then you've got to deal with it.
At some point, they're gonna have to pass it.
Correct.
Right.
The test, the class that they just were sent to, the guy, the instructor guarantees that they'll pass the test. And if they don't, they go back for free until they pass the test. So, that's where we stand. So hopefully they'll all be licensed before the first of the year.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Next is to approve ambulance abatements for the month of September to the tune of $47,124.76.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the abatements. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's done. Approved. Next is approve and sign indirect cost allocation plan for enterprise funds as submitted by accountant Tim Fails. That is simply a more efficient accounting system for making sure that the enterprise fund pays for anything that the town incurs and vice versa.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Got a motion made and approved to assign the indirect cost allocation plan submitted by our accountant Kim Fails. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next is to sign a renewal proposal for MIA health benefits.
Can I take that under advisement?
Yes. We're gonna hold up on that?
Yeah, because I think you have to have a meeting of the insurance advisory group, because some of those rates are changing. And these are for the retirees, has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the regular employees.
Yeah.
But it still has to have a insurance advisory board meeting.
Right. I'll take care of it.
Not it.
Not it.
it.
Not it.
Not it. Okay.
Next is discuss designating a representative to the electrical aggregate program. Now, I gotta tell you this,
Yeah.
Jack. There isn't anybody in this room that has a clue
I
about what's
don't.
going on there
Right.
but you.
Well, that's because you haven't been reading my emails, I guess.
I have been
your
reading
emails.
your
It's
emails.
gibberish to me.
All right, what's happened is that all of the communities in southeastern Massachusetts and beyond, a total now of, I think, 42, have gotten DPU, Department of Public Utility approval, to band together to go out for the purchase of electric power.
I think we all know that, but you're coming down to bidding on it, and I don't.
Well, now that DPU has approved it, now we enter into the process, the phase of establishing an electrical services agreement, and the attorneys for those towns, including ours,
Yeah.
have been working on that. And then we're going to be going out to bid. The communities are going to need to approve those bids, or the successful bidder, and the tentative date. There's a
Just let me
tentative-
back up here a second. When you say approve the bids, our representative is gonna say, yeah, I accept that bid?
You're gonna have to approve it on basis, on behalf of the town, yes.
Who's
Not
gonna accept the
knowing-
bid, though? Is it
Well,
Serpent?
No, no.
No,
The
the
bids are
town.
going, the communities are bidding collectively, so that they need to approve them collectively.
Oh, I see, so you're
So a
voting
representative
collectively.
from each community will be there,
Okay.
and they have to
Okay.
collectively approve and sign the
So
contract.
you're not sticking up your hand saying, I'll go on the hook for Freetown.
Oh,
It's
no.
a bunch of people
Yeah.
voting.
Everybody is doing the same thing.
And there'll be information there on the cost of the bids.
Yes, and no, there's gonna be there's some time between now and then,
Okay,
for the parties that you assign to, as the primary representative and the secondary representative, to get schooled in just exactly what this is all about, and answer any questions that you may have. And there's been several recent emails that provide some of that information. There's one that was received today that promises a more detailed memo coming this week. And if you would like to go over and meet with the Good Energy and Serpent folks that have been working on this and know all the ins and outs and ask any questions and get further schooled on exactly what it is that we're doing. Bottom line is, there's strength in numbers. When you go out to buy anything,
yeah,
if more people are buying it, you get it for less. And that's, there's a hope here that all of our residents and small business people, they're on basic plan and with the current provider, will be able to save a good deal of money over the course of the winter. Eversource just announced an increase. There's every possibility that there could be another increase in the offering during the winter, like there was last year. So, the bids are tentatively going to be opened on the 10th of November. They have to be done by that time. If they're going to meet the first meter reading in January. That's the hope. If we get that done, then the savings will start with the new year.
So when they open these bids, they'll open the 3 bids in front of this group of representatives from
Yes.
the towns.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're gonna vote on the best deal.
Yes.
Okay.
All right?
So we need a representative to get involved in this.
Yes.
Any volunteers?
Nope.
And you're gonna be on
I'm gonna be,
vacation?
I'm gonna be off, and I'll be, working out of the office, but I won't be able to be at Serpent on that date.
Where
So
is Serpent, by the way? I've never
it's
been.
in Taunton. Well, they may have it at another location because of the number of people involved. But that's to be determined. But we need a primary and a secondary representative. Ms. Pacheco has politely bowed out, so I think there only leaves.
So it goes to one of the other
Two of
5
you.
board members?
Who's gonna be the primary here?
I volunteer.
All right.
And the secondary, I understand one of the requirements is you have to have pink shirts.
Yeah,
Is
right,
that true?
that's true.
Not see-through.
All right.
I'd make a motion that Ms. Pacheco be the primary and the secondary.
Now, does
And
the
I'll cover
secondary
her
have to
after
be
school
there
program.
also?
Not necessarily.
Okay, well, why don't you remain the secondary, I'll take the primary and do and represent
Well, the
Freetown
whole
there.
thought is, though, that the primary should be readily available in the event that a tree falls on you or something.
I mean, the secondary.
The secondary should be available,
Does it have to be a member of the board?
Oh,
yes. It should be a member of the board,
I'll just do the secondary.
yeah. All right.
Okay, I don't think we have to vote on that.
So we have a motion,
To make Lisa, we had a motion to make Lisa the primary.
I don't
I mean,
know.
if we vote on it, how can she say no?
She can.
I think you should vote on it. We need to
Okay.
fill out this
We have
form.
a-
That's symbol for strength.
Why don't you make a motion to make me the primary and Paul the secondary, and you can skate, Ms. Pacheco. We'll give you a
I'll make a
pass.
motion to have you the primary and Paul the secondary.
You need a second. Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to make Lee Baumgartner the primary electrical aggregate representative and Paul Sadek the secondary. All in favor?
Aye.
You're getting rid of the water stuff.
So we'll stay in contact.
Yes, I'm gonna,
Keep me,
yep. We'll be talking tomorrow, all right?
Okay. Next, we have approval renewal of DPF Enterprises, Inc., Class 2 license to sell cars and trucks. I stopped over there on the way here, and the guy who I forgot what his name is, whatever his name is, he's in there working, eating a cold cheeseburger or something, and the deal is that his license ran out the first of the year, and they simply forgot about it. That's the same guy that, you probably know him, up in the childcare, the new childcare usually. On your road.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, he apologized all over the place and satisfied, my curiosity as to why he, didn't renew his license. So I would entertain a motion to
I'll make a motion to approve.
approve it.
With the understanding that he has to renew again in January.
yeah.
Renew again in January.
Yeah. And he's, yeah.
Yeah, Ally, when he comes in to pick that up, I mean.
This doesn't go
He
for a
has to know
year,
that
he has to,
this is-
this is just to the end of the year, and then he has to do it again in
Yeah,
January.
I'll second that.
Have a motion made and seconded to approve DPF's Enterprise Class 2 license. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda is to discuss the Old Colony enrollment. I was under the impression a while ago that we had capped that at 90, and now it's up to like 92 or something.
Right, because
So,
last year,
I would entertain a motion that we cap that at 90 through attrition.
I technically don't think you can lawfully do that, but I think that you can have an understanding with the superintendent over there that we're only gonna fund 90 students.
Okay, then I make a motion, we reach out to the superintendent over there and suggest that we're only gonna fund 90 students.
Okay.
I have a motion.
I'll second the motion, except that, what do we do with the two students that are?
So you,
It's
what they're gonna
reduced-
do is the
reduced
freshman
to-
year,
Okay.
the freshmen coming in will be reduced by 2.
Okay, because it was always 90.
It was 90.
Yeah, okay, I'll second that.
Have a motion made and seconded to reach out to the superintendent to fund 90 students freshman year. All in favor?
No, 90 total students, no.
90 total students. That's what I said, start
Okay.
beginning with the freshman
Yeah.
year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sweat's just drying up on me. So, Board of Health. Anything, who's the Board of Health?
He is.
A lot of stuff going on with Board of Health that the health agent is involved in. We've got a couple of properties that haven't cleaned up their act, and I think he's gonna be doing a quote with those. And in addition to that, we have a situation where we have a person living in a house without heat and so forth, and Kevin's been doing a all-day job of trying to get assistance from this individual.
What is on now is it this stuff?
He hopes to have this done by tomorrow, at least that, for that particular person. Other than that, I think that's it.
You have a flu?
Oh, this Saturday, flu clinic here at the senior center, Saturday, 9 to noon.
All right.
Ally Gauls is giving the injections. If you're not nice to her, she'll use a square needle.
We'll be there.
Personnel?
All right, we have a change of status for Kendyl Fields effective November 1st, 2015, from an hourly rate of $35.26 to $36.15.
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And also, you guys can talk about this, I wasn't at this, so I don't know who this man is. How was it?
How was it?
Yeah.
It was a good interview.
Good interview.
Very nice guy. I think he's a retired individual, he can only work 19 hours a week. Jack did the reference checks after the fact, that we talked to the guy, after we talked to the guy. And the references came back. And I'll let Jack address that, but he was fine, he did a good job. I know that Jack referred the writing of the contract to our town council to come up with something that would be very restrictive. And that's about what I know.
What's his name?
Jeffrey Cannon.
Okay, because the
Says
change of status says Jack
Jack
Cannon.
Cannon.
Well, that was an email from Ally. She just got the first name there.
Okay.
No, this here says Jeff, it's the other.
Mine says,
The other one,
here
yeah.
says Jack.
The appointment says
Yeah,
Jack.
I'll just.
Appointment
Yeah, that's fine.
certificate says Jack, and the other one says Jeff. His name is Jeff.
It's Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I think, from my perspective, because he got such a good, the company he retired from, said he did a wonderful job aligning people, training, inner departments and everything like that. They were very happy with him. He worked for them.
Mills, the town of Mills.
Mills,
Yeah.
many years, 7 years or something. And he seemed astute, and he seemed interested, and wanted to be on board as this little town grows and moves forward. So I was comfortable.
But it's a renewal of what, every 6 months?
Six
It's just 6 months renewal.
6 months renewal.
Can we do the first one at 3 months, and then if we're comfortable, then change it? Do you have a problem with that? Okay,
Good idea.
all right, because
I have no problem.
we don't know,
No,
so.
we don't know
He
until we see
did,
the.
he
Until we
did
see the
state this
person.
in the minutes, that, you know, if the training went along really quickly, and he said at the end of 2 months, if you told me we don't meet anymore, I said, I'm gone, no problem.
I think
So
that,
3 months would be probably good.
let's readdress it in 3 months.
Good.
All right,
I think it's a good idea, very good idea. All right,
okay. So
motion?
do I have a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to, work on a contract with this individual, 19 hours a week, total of $700 a week, I guess it comes to, for a 3-month contract, and, David Jenkins, our attorney, is gonna be putting the contract together.
Okay, with the caveat that he only gets paid if he works, like there's no vacation.
No,
No, anything like that,
19 hours
okay.
a week.
All right, and
You
then
divide
we're
that
gonna
into the
readdress
700,
this in
yeah.
3 months.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a motion with those changes and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm done.
New business.
Okay.
Dates for upcoming Selectmen's meeting, annual town meeting, October 27th.
That we can't change.
A special town meeting on October 27th.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, this one says annual, it's supposed to be special. And Board of Selectmen's meetings on November the 2nd, the 16th, and the 30th. Do we need one on the 30th?
No.
No,
Scratch the 30th.
only if we have to, like,
And-
this is blizzard.
December the 28th?
No.
Oh,
Nope.
So the 2nd of November, the 16th of November, the 14th of December, and then we're into next year. And I asked, when does this town go to sleep? Don't we ever go to sleep when stuff is going on?
No, but just 2 things to say. First of all, Amazon broke ground today,
Yes.
cutting trees and doing their site work, so that's all good. And the second thing is, I took a tour of the South Main Street, Stop and Shop, widening of the road. And that project should be done by the end of this week, a month ahead of time.
Really?
And
You
it's
know,
absolutely beautiful down there.
It
They
must
did a
have-
lot of
It
work.
must have been the superintendent.
It was,
that-
I was
that
there with
sped-
both.
That sped that along, huh?
I was there with both of them, Kenny and him.
I guess I get confused because Stop and Shop private vendor, they hire contractors, no BS. The job gets done. We hire contractors to work on bridges. In one case, the estimate we get is $500,000. When the actual bill comes in, it's $750,000. And all of a sudden now, if they have to move a rock, shame on us, it goes up $9,000. Doesn't that seem odd? If that was Stop and Shop, you know what they would get paid? $750,000. Is it because the towns always bend over backwards to satisfy the contractors?
It's because of the requirements, state requirements for municipalities.
Prevailing wage and all
Prevailing
that other
wage
stuff.
requirements.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah. We
They
have
keep coming back. Do we ever go back to them and say, we're unhappy with the work, we're only gonna pay you?
You got an opportunity right now, Mr. Baker wants to know what kind of regulations or requirements that the state puts on municipalities that we don't like, that he might not be interested in.
That's one of them, prevailing wage.
When you send out your letter, I'll sign it.
Okay.
Can we put under old business, town hall painting? I know we
Town
talked
hall
of
planting?
painting,
Painting.
painting of the town,
I was
right.
on top of it, and I talked about that with Scott, what's going on. He said, well, here's what's happening. We have a lot of preventive maintenance work needs to be done on the shingles and stuff like that, the skirts. And he had a guy that was willing to do it and take the time, because they all have to be carved individually and primed and everything put on. And evidently the guy got really ill all of a sudden. So it kind of put everything back. He didn't wanna hire a contractor to come in and do that, because it would cost a fortune.
No,
And then the deal is, we're gonna get it painted by,
the
prison.
sheriff's department,
So this guy that was gonna do the prep work, where it was really rotted and everything, had some kind of issue. So
okay.
it kinda put it off, but he's taken his time and put it into the block wall, the base of the foundation, and everything in the back, to tighten up the cellar, the town hall, where there'll be no cold air leaking in. He's gonna take advantage of the heating system to blow air into. He's moving ahead on several little
All right,
projects. like
we'll
that.
just leave it on old business.
Plus, I think he's reached out to the paint companies to the extent where he wants to know what type of paint and primer is best for an old building like that, so it's gonna last the longest.
Then we might wanna tell Mary we're doing that too.
Yeah, so,
Why should you call it auto?
that's going. Those are the
Okay.
things. As far as old business and a water agreement, the lawyers are taking care of that.
Yep.
That's probably gonna come up. I have a meeting with Churchill and Banks on Friday, and I'm sure that's probably gonna come up there.
And we probably will wanna set a meeting with, the Lakeville Board of Selectmen soon, right? To talk about the school
Yeah, when we
Numbers?
wait till after the,
after town meeting, yeah.
yeah, and there's a regional finance committee meeting. 29th.
All right, and I think they're gonna end up disbanding that committee that
That you were on?
yeah, because really, if they're gonna do anything to that elementary school, it's really Lakeville's issue. It's not the town of Freetown's, and it's not a capital project that we're gonna be invested in, or we're gonna be paying for.
Good thing you were there.
Why? Oh,
You
yeah.
had that meeting, yes,
So-
because you have the
Yeah,
history.
so that, I think that committee will be banded because, disbanded, because there's no way that we're gonna go out and get a bond or a ban for any of that money
Nope.
for their
We took care of
capital.
we took care of our stuff.
Yes,
We did, over the years.
yeah, we're done.
Okay, so as far as,
Huh?
Aren't we still paying for some of that over here?
Here? Elementary?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's still, there's
Yeah.
So we're still paying,
Yeah,
so.
absolutely,
right.
All right.
absolutely.
that's
Oh,
the.
I don't know how many more years we have, but
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to jumping in with them if they could help us.
no.
No,
No,
We're at
but I
the
don't
end
know
of
what the
our-
numbers are.
no, we're at the end, and if they're gonna spend whatever they're gonna spend,
All right, that's fine.
not on our backs.
Sounds good.
So we're gonna move into executive session at this point.
Is that necessary? Do we need to?
Yeah, I can tell you
Okay.
about,
All right.
So, we're gonna move into executive session to discuss the strategy with respect to collective bargaining with the 911 signal operators union and police union. If any open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and so the chair declares. Motion to move
I'll
into
make a
executive
motion.
session.
second,
I have a motion made and seconded to move into executive session. All in favor?
Aye,
aye,
Aye. Mr. Sadik?
yes.
Mr. Chica?
yes.
Mr. Baumgartner, yes.